Very good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Makkula Market. Now, in our first story, hundreds of National Democratic Congress supporters poured out onto the streets of Accra Tuesday, demanding immediate implementation of the Milshore Commission of Inquiry report, payment of compensation to victims of brutality meted out by security agencies, and investigations that will lead to the prosecution of culprits. The petition was presented to the presidency as part of a 4-hour protest walk from the Accra Mall to Parliament, with a brief stop at Jubilee House, where the first petition was presented. There's more in the following report.
It was a call to action as leaders of the National Democratic Congress took turns listing why they believe supporters gathered in protest, as well as all other Ghanaians, should speak up. From economic hardships to police and military brutality, they called for change.
Demonstration no there yabaya nemmom yababa e ho bai enunti sanitizers nipa bi no wo mu a okura sanitizers yekuta nose mask obi a wuni nose mask no bia no wo be wo mo a wo be nya bia se yasra mo selfie no so eya mo ma mo tete mo ntam e kakra na frama fa mo ntam na mo nya selfie no sade baya yababa e ho bai. If you say, you can't say the neighbor for say, yes, you cry, you got him. Yes, you want to draw cry, you know that. That's it, I say, that's it. Now, COVID in Nunti, Wamukum, ya Makkula Market. Abumba Nunti, you could damn a time COVID, you know, Mebuana. And Nunti, so I'm better demonstration by Bakswa. On my no monyo. Only the vigilante for no free soldier move. Only the vigilante for free police move. Now on yourself, Nipa Yakuku Wamunano, Nipa Adisauno, Yabapa or Montoma, Niadu or more family Quaiso. Now or more Yabusha for Wamotono, Yabaya compensation.
Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Samuel George alleged a meeting had been held by government to unleash military personnel into the demonstration.
We had an arrangement with the IGP of police on the routes we are using. The rules of this country say that crowd control is the job of the police. In fact, part of this demonstration is because military men were using crowd control and they shot and killed unarmed Ghanaians. Yet some people in government had a meeting last night and decided that despite the presence of the police, they intend to bring in the military to beat us halfway.
But as the walk began, it was obvious the police was in charge, with a heavy presence as they marched alongside the protesters. From the Accra Mall, the thick crowd marched through the Opebia Junction, Defence Ministry, Lands Commission, and finally got to the Jubilee House, where a human wall had been formed by police officers with others seated on horses. The petition was presented, but first, the contents were read out loud by the National Youth Organizer, George Opariado.
Petition to President Akufo-Addo by the National Youth Wing of the National Democratic Congress. The framers of the 1992 Constitution were spot on when they made provisions in Clause 1 of Article 1 that the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in this Constitution. In the strict adherence to the meaning of this provision, Your Excellency, you took the presidential oath on 7 January 2027, when you were first, 2017, when you were first elected President of the Republic. Although our party, the NDC, contested the general elections, which was subsequently decided in your favor by the Supreme Court of our Republic, you took the same oath on January 7, 2021, to serve another 4-year term. The presidential oath, as we know it, was not and cannot be fanciful words said for purposes of formality.
Meanwhile, Parliament has deferred to today a decision on what to do with the NDC's petition to the Speaker for Leadership to deliberate further on it. Majority Leader Osei Chairman Sabonsu and Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu have proposed the petition be referred to the Defence and Interior as well as Constitution and Legal Affairs Committees for deliberation. But first, Deputy Speaker Joe Oseowusu says more deliberations need to be done.
May I suggest that we defer any referral today and discuss it at the leadership meeting tomorrow thoroughly before making a pronouncement. Right. Thank you.
Away from that, scores of traders at Makkula are still counting their losses after a 3-story building housing their wares caught fire on Monday. Shop owners were given access to salvage what they could from the building on Tuesday, but the fire reignited from the smoldering rubble. Minister for Trades and Industry Alan Chimanteng, who visited the scene, announced that a relief package was being prepared for the victims. Manuel Kwanting reports.
The fire had been contained in one building since morning. We have not been able to douse the fire because of the inflammable materials, the cosmetics.
Mayor of Accra, Mohammed Ni Ajay Soa, describing the situation at Makkula Market to Trades Minister Alan Chimanteng as he visited the scene of the fire on Tuesday. The fire, which was still raging 24 hours after it started, had been reignited from the smoldering rubble, demanding immediate attention to tame it again.
This is the entry point to the room where the fire is reignited. Or this particular room, we're told, houses combustible materials, including toiletries, including fabrics, and so on and so forth. Well, we've seen spontaneous explosions from this particular room.
We have a high fire load in there, and that's the combustible. There are a lot of combustible. All the shops here are used as warehouses, and they are fully packed, and it's very narrow. So getting access even in there was very difficult. We had to break all these shops.
We saw you give access to some of the market women to pick their goods from there.
These ones are the shops that are not been touched yet, the ground floor and the first floor. But even since we started firefighting again, we've stopped them.
For the affected traders, all they could do was to look on as their wares worth millions of Ghana cedis continue to be ravaged by the fire.
Na ye noma na wo ho ni nya ya sese ni nyina ntimi a me gya hempo de me noma no me hu bebi egu ni nyina ayira afa me ba di dosh ono no shop na wo soro ho pa no ba ko so wo mfifin ha ni nyina se ene ni ho se bibia se wamfa bibia wo te di do de no waka pa no waka ndi esremo umbo mode ani stores na wo ni nyina momma mode na momwa won time ade ne start ye no oma ma ye kwan se bia yen gina ho yi ni ama because na agya na no odin enti yam oma ye nyina si form na eye kakra na wiye no ma ye say agya na ba form no na se be 4 o'clock na se anka oma ye kwan kakra na yetimi yi ni ama ni bi but oma allow ye enti ye ni ama ne de anya so obi de ahye obi de anhye ye budo no obi ni ama ahye.
And I drove all the way. Even on my way coming, I have to park my car and pick motorbike to get here early so that maybe at least if we can be able to retrieve something. But before I got here, everything got bent. I saw beads, crystal beads and any kind of bead. Yeah.
How much did you have in there?
I can't tell now because I have 2 shops there. My warehouse and then the shop.
Both of them are bent?
Both of them are bent. Yeah, I just want to see my shop to be sure. Even though I was looking neat from the back, I saw it's bent, but I want to really see. I was having this hope, sir, maybe, but I want to just see it if it is real. But, you know, the smoke couldn't allow me to.
As a cushion to the victims, the Trades Minister announced that government is developing a relief package to help the victims get back on the path of recovery.
I'm here also to sympathize with the victims and to assure them that government is committed and fully behind them, and we are going to take all the necessary steps to ensure that we support them to get them back into their trade.
Let's go to the central region where the regional police command there is urging residents in the region not to patronize tricycles, properly known as pragia, being used for commercial activities in the region, especially in the Cape Coast metropolis. According to the police, the use of tricycles for commercial activities is prohibited by law and the public should not support its operations. The city of Cape Coast has been flooded with tricycles where young boys who are barely 18 years of age have deserted schooling and are engaging in such a commercial enterprise. The region police command on Monday arrested 60 of the tricycle riders in a special operation to clamp down on illegal acts on the roads in the region. Richard Kojanyako has more.
The Cape Coast Metro Education Directorate about a fortnight ago expressed worry about the way in which children of school-going age had deserted the classroom and were engaged in commercial tricycle operations, popularly known as pragia. The practice hasn't been the concern of only the Education Directorate, but many well-meaning residents of the region who say the tricycle riders drive carelessly on the roads. After the special operations by the Regional Police Command that saw the arrest of 60 tricycle riders, the Regional Police PRO DSP Irene Opon indicated the law does not permit tricycles to be used for commercial purposes in the country.
The target was on riders without license and insurance certificate, and also all children who are now riders instead of being in the classroom. We went through the whole of Cape Coast metropolis where we think our intelligence can establish that we can get them to arrest. Today we have arrested about 60 plus of the riders and they are being processed for court. We are using the LI 2180 regulation 128 which states that the regulation does not permit tricycle to be used for commercial purpose. And the punishments for those who go contrary to this is 25 penalty units or 30 days imprisonment or both, as the judge of the case will.
DSP Opon further revealed that most accident cases recorded in the metropolis within the first quarter of this year were caused by reckless and careless driving of these riders, and there was a need to expedite action to curtail further losses and damages. The police command appealed to the public to desist from engaging tricycles for commercial purposes because it was harming a lot of lives and properties in the metropolis.
Currently, most of accident cases recorded within the metropolis, that is Cape Coast, for the first quarter, are caused by the tricycle riders or the pragia, as we locally term it. Hence, we need to do something concrete about this. We would like to use this opportunity to appeal to the general public. The main objective for all riders who are into commercial use with the pragia is to get passengers and also to get to make money. So if the general public refuse to patronize them, I think they will fold up from the system.
Even more worrying is the fact that junior high school students have deserted the classroom and are engaged in such an enterprise. The 60 riders were put before court on Tuesday. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kojanyako, Cape Coast.
Hospitals in Ghana will no longer have to deal with non-functional surgical instruments, as 30 Ghanaians have undergone training in surgical instrument repair. The 2-week course meant to provide the hospitals with skilled technicians who can repair and maintain surgical instruments was provided by Safe Surgery Initiative. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah has more in the following report.
It's estimated 143 million additional surgical procedures are needed in low and middle-income countries to save lives and prevent disability. Safe Surgery Initiative is a non-profit organization that provides surgical instrument refurbishment, capacity building, and education to low and middle-income countries. Executive Director of Safe Surgery Initiative, Keith Miles, says the technicians will benefit from a continuous online training to make them fully certified.
This is just the first step in our training program. After that, they go through more online training. There's opportunities for remote training in other countries. And then we also do augmented reality training where they have online technical support from our local technicians based in the U.S. and other areas around the world. Once they've completed that certification process, they get their certificate and they'll take an exam to qualify them for surgical instrument repair. So this is just the beginning step of a long process that we're going to walk each of our participants through from beginning to end with full support of Safe Surgery Initiative in collaboration with Smile Train.
The participants were drawn from the Ashanti, Bono, Northern and Greater Accra regions. The training was sponsored by Smile International with support from Ghana Cleft Foundation and the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital. President of the West African College of Surgeons and President of Ghana Cleft Foundation, Professor Peter Donko, says this comes as a relief to especially surgeons. He said the program will be expanded to accommodate technicians from other regions.
I'm sure that, again, the surgeons will be happy, that's first thing. If surgeons are happy, it means that the operations are going well. So the patients, you expect that operation time will be shorter because you don't have to, what you should be able to cut very quickly. The instrument is no longer blunt, it's sharp. You no longer have to wait for what is not available, all the things that so yes, things are going to be much better. Quality of care is bound to improve.
I'll be primarily from the
CEO of Komfanoche Teaching Hospital, Dr. Hineba Usudanso, was optimistic the training will significantly lessen the financial burden caused by equipment breakdown. Safe Surgery Initiative donated surgical tools worth $50,000 to the Komfanoche Teaching Hospital. Reporter for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Now, a renowned Ghanaian-American plastic surgeon noted for his philanthropic free reconstructive surgery for deprived people is challenging the rich and powerful in Ghana to contribute towards building a first-class hospital in the country. Dr. Michael Kwame Obeng says it is unthinkable for the elite in society to be seeking expert medical service abroad when they can pool resources to build an international standard facility that will attract medical expertise from around the world. The Harvard-trained surgeon recently received the International Man of the Year 2021 award in the United States. Erastus Asari Donko has more on the life of the only African plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills of the U.S.
Plastic and reconstructive surgeon Dr. Michael Obeng was called in.
The surgical team left this morning for
The mission team is comprised of 7 people, including Dr. Michael Obeng.
Dr. Michael Obeng has blazed the trail to become Harvard-trained plastic surgeon, a philanthropist, humanitarian, and a healthcare consultant. He's been awarded International Man of the Year 2021 by the Hollywood and African Prestigious Awards, a United States of America awards created to honor outstanding individuals whose lives have been marked by extraordinary milestones and accomplishments. This celebrity surgeon, who hails from Adiabeba in Kumasi, on Sunday received a hero's welcome by the chiefs and people of the area. He was taken on a float through Adiabeba, Ahojo and Ishaeso, where he schooled as a child. He has fond memories of his hometown.
When we were kids, we used to make our own toys, and it's called Borres. So you have the thing, you have the little steel thing. And I was coming down the hill, the main entrance to Adiababa, and it bumped, and then I flew it, and my scrotum went through the nail. I almost died. And that's one memory I will never forget.
The chief of Twase Adiababa, Nana Ouswa Bebiu, prayed for him. Dr. Michael Obeng's foundation, Restore, has provided surgeries in 3 different continents to children and adults with disfiguring deformities from birth, accidents, and diseases over the past 11 years.
We have been to Gabon, we have been to Guatemala, we have been to Vietnam, and Restore has done over 1,500 free surgeries of all the places that were visited, and no single patient pays a dime. everything is done free of charge.
On his visits, Dr. Obin has realized the lack of basic medical resources across the country, which he attributes to misplaced priority.
I remember in 2011 we went to Tamale, and to find out a community or a town of 500,000 people with a draw area of 1 million, that the whole Tamale did not have a dialysis machine. They did not even have a mammography machine to image a woman's breast to check for breast cancer. But at the time, Tamale had a stadium. They had built a stadium for the African Cup of Nations. And, of course, the people I came with, the foreigners, the white people, were saying, wow, what, you guys can build a stadium, but you can't buy a mammography machine? It makes us look stupid. Okay, this is common sense. So I hope that we put emphasis into healthcare.
Dr. Obin and his partners are currently establishing a $50 million pharmaceutical plant in Ghana to manufacture affordable and quality medication for Africans.
Hopefully this pharmaceutical plant that we are planning to build is going to meet all the standards, and we're going to be able to even export drugs to Europe.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
And that's how we end the AM News. My name is Maprisa Sibidi. The AM Show continues. Is the thing.
Well, what we do. Listen, I think that, we should be encouraging, media, okay, and especially in this instance, and we're talking about Ejura here, it was private media that gave us a lot. And we should be grateful. We should actually be extremely grateful to the media that we see a whole regional security council. Do you know the power and the sort of equipment that they have? If they couldn't capture the evidence and we told the story as it was happening, I mean, you need to be patting us at the back. Like, you should be grateful,
to be honest,
that we did what we did.
If they had even captured it and it hadn't looked good for certain people in certain circles, let's face it, would we be privy to some of what we already have? So indeed, we ought to be very grateful to private media and multimedia at the helm of, I believe that. I found it interesting yesterday, looking at comments on social media and some of what came even to our page when Erastus Asaredonko. By the way, Erastus, hey, you be senior artist. Hey, even from the legal standpoint, we were watching you and going like, yeah.
Here's what I just posted on my Facebook. And I say, it is the morning after, and we will always be proud of our Erastus Asaredonko. You led a team to tell a story and gave the nation perhaps the only evidence. Hashtag George Floyd on my mind. Hashtag JoyNews. Big ups, Erastus.
I mean, he accounted of himself so well.
Absolutely.
And especially when the committee was pushing that, certain slugs had been given, whether indeed Kaka was a member of the Fix the Country. But since when did the Fix the Country people start bearing membership cards? I mean, I thought it was an open thing that people on the back of, those posts were saying, okay, yes, let's fix this in my community. It is this, it is that. Since when did people start becoming card-bearing members of Fix the Country?
Oh, I think it's still, the whole social media and trends. And just like the, Republic Press puts the headline, NDC old men flex muscles, trends and hashtags is still not something that a lot of people are used to.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a hashtag and you get involved. It doesn't mean that you're a member of whatever.
I mean, there are different ways of looking at it, but it was curious when, the questions were posed that you were reporting this and the station had that and all of that. But in the end, we're just waiting for justice. Whatever way, one of the papers today is suggesting, I think the Statesman is suggesting that Kaka's brother, actually had a hand in the attack. You remember this came up initially. And the family threw it out and said there was no possibility that happened. Well, the police is maintaining.
Yeah.
As an eyewitness shares. You remember that eyewitness as well. So we'll see how that story develops.
Yeah.
But we'll keep playing our role
Absolutely.
multimedia, and we shall not back down.
I think we've given this committee some fantastic raw visuals.
Oh yeah.
That if they sat down to look at it, they would see that it would be absolutely helpful to their work. Right. Yeah. So we're happy that we're able to do that. By the way, it cost a lot of money to send equipment and team members to the field to do that, and we were broadcasting live. So that's a lot of money. So
I guess
to give it freely to the states, you know, through the work of this committee, that's like a lot.
It tells you why we were the ones there covering it, and the other entities, you know, what has here. You don't be joke like that. This morning, I have the Daily Graphic, the Daily Statesman, the BNFT Daily Guide, and the Custodian newspaper.
I'll do the Ghanaian Times, Republic Press, Daily Dispatch, the final newspaper. All right, so where do we start? Perhaps the Ghanaian Times. Here's what's on the front page of the Times today. The banner headline, March for Justice, demo hits Accra as supporters of NDC march through Accra streets. CRI applauds government for bearing cost of surgery on conjoined twins. On the Ejura Ministerial Committee sitting, Ashanti Regional Minister appears before probe. Well, yesterday he said that he actually ordered for Operation Calm Life, which is the military, you know, to be there in Ejura. And he says it's actually a strategy that he's been using, not just for Ejura, but for other hotspots as well. It's worked except for this last incident. Government to retool Ghana National Fire Service with $61 million equipment. I've heard this before, except that I'm not sure it was 61 million. I think I've heard this.
This time 61 million.
And it was for two fire tenders, right?
Yes, I remember there was one such incident. But again, while this is a very good step, a very good initiative, I always ask myself, we're such a knee-jerk reaction people. Something must happen to trigger something. May 9 had to happen. All these things happen. And even still, you look at some of the things that have happened on the back of which we were supposed to adopt certain measures. You look at the measures supposedly adopted, and we're just waiting for another disaster to happen. Sad.
All right, let's go to page 3. And 1,454 persons were killed and 8,188 suffered injuries in 8,188 road crashes within 6 months in the country this year, against 8,140 persons killed and 6,855 injured in 6,670 road crashes within the same period last year. This represents an increase of 23% of cases recorded by the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service. So details of that on page 3. Also, the Central Region Police Command has arrested at least 60 tricycle riders for illegally using tricycles for commercial purposes in the Cape Coast metropolis. This was in our news just a short while ago. They're asking people not to patronize, and it's actually very scary. I thought initially they were they used to cart goods, if you like, but now you actually see people occupying it.
These tricycles are meant to cart goods, not persons. But now we're seeing this, and the Pragya is no exception. And even for me, an even bigger worry, the speeds at which they go sometimes. And you know, they are not so stable. So any little thing, and you could end up, we could have fatalities on our hands. So I think, well, in a way, this could help address the problem.
Again, we've watched it grow to a certain level now. Yep. I don't know, because it's all over the regions.
When you hit the knee and you feel the pain, then we react.
All right, police have arrested one person in connection with the killing of a head teacher identified as Isaac J. Menu. Okay, this is a story from the Ashanti region that we shared with you. The suspect who had confessed of, you know, slashing this other human being, really, because he wanted to make money, and they had told him to bring a human herd. And then an ex-convict has been arrested by the police for allegedly stealing a laptop from his victim along the Achimota Gimpa Road in Accra. Suspect is Ofori Kwabena. He's in the custody of the police, assisting with investigations with his while his accomplice is on the run. So this is an incident back in 2016. Details of that in the paper. Let's check out what's in the center spread. I'll come back and do a bit of details of this Ghana National Fire Service disclosing, and this is them, it's not like a minister saying, but it is, again, the Ghana National Fire Service saying that government will reach to. Okay. So I'll come back and deal with this matter. On the back page, Hearts, Oli, and Tricky MTN FA Cup ties. And then Kotoko overcome Asokwa Deportivo. Hey, Asokwa Deportivo. Where do they get the names?
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the Premier League. I'm talking about the FA Cup.
Yes, I know.
Why are you afraid?
When you start saying Asokwa Deportivo, that team has been around for a while, though. A lot of people don't know, though. Asokwa Deportivo. But sometimes it's interesting. I think maybe our sports people could just put together something interesting. These names that some of the teams have, first tier, second tier, third tier, and how they get them, and how sometimes they name them after some teams in Deportivo, of course. Deportivo La Corona is in Spain.
Maybe they have some sort of support.
Yes, some
from
of them get support, Midtjylland or whatever.
Is it Brecum that we have Ajax. Chelsea?
Yeah, Brecum Chelsea. Chelsea. But some of them
there Arsenal?
There's an Arsenal somewhere. There's an Arsenal somewhere.
Yes, oh, that one is Brecum.
What I've not heard yet is maybe Kukrantume Manchester United. we should get to one of those.
Well, I'm done with the Times.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic. ENI discovers more oil. That's on page 16. What is that going to mean? When we struck oil and started in earnest around 2010, some people said maybe the Dutch disease and it was going to be a curse rather than a blessing. We've got a lot from it, but as Piak will tell us recently, we've not milked enough in terms of development from our oil resources. Environment Minister calls for debate on GMOs, and that is something else that has come up. People insinuating that some people are producing them. March for Justice ends peacefully. And 7 days into census, Mamavi, half of households counted. Northeast region covers 64%.
Should have
now
seen me.
That is something.
Just because I saw the chalk and some, I'll give it to a call to put it on the screen.
Right.
I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, my house has been counted.
So according to the story, the Ghana Statistical Service has covered almost half of the expected households to be enumerated as of last Sunday, 7 days into the 2021 population and housing census. And data received from 99.2% of enumeration areas in all 16 regions and 272 statistical districts indicate that an average of 42.1% of the expected households have been enumerated. The completion rate ranges from 27.09% in the Greater Accra region to 63.89% in the Northeast region. No surprise in the Greater Accra region looking at the numbers. So, but very good. Very, very good work. In fact, I always do the international pages 5 and 9. 9 jailed in first Togo pirate trial. And then mobile clinics to speed up COVID-19 vaccinations in Abidjan. Nigerian state shut schools over kidnappings, one of which you were speaking of only yesterday. On the other international page, page 9, WHO warns against easing COVID-19 restrictions. And here in Ghana, well, with Delta on the prowl, we don't have even that. We can't even think of it, easing the restrictions. Israel's new government fails to renew disputed citizenship law. And finally, China takes dig at U.S. in speech to political parties around the world. You can check out details of that. In the middle spread, I was compelled to dispatch military. That's according to Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah. And then deliberations on maximizing water energy resources underway in Accra. On the back page of the paper, 2 community mining projects inaugurated in the Western region, and fear grips motorists over shaky bridge. And this one, should time suffice, I shall get back to. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
Let's do Republic Press newspaper, and on the front page, NDC old men in quotes, flex muscles at youth demo. It says, what looked like a battle for attention and relevance reared its ugly head yesterday at the NDC youth protest when 2 of the party's top under-fire executives joined the march to flex their muscles in the streets of Accra. Well, you might want to read this angle and figure out who they are describing. as old men flexing their muscles. In the Central Region, it says Central Region Police hands for illegal tricycle users in Cape Coast, another angle to the earlier story shared. Police command sends reinforcement to Ntonso after 2 youth groups clash. And then Makkula fire, congested access impedes fire fighting. Also, Ashanti Region Minister justifies military deployment to Ejura. Namwan is sick, lawyer tells the court, and I'm sure that this is one that a lot of people are interested in. So if you go to page 4, it says the Chief Executive Officer for Defunct Men's Gold, Nana Apia Mensah, popularly known as Namwan, failed to show up at an Accra Circuit Court where he's standing trial together with 2 others for various offenses, including fraud. At the court on Tuesday, lawyer for Namwan, Audrey Chum, prompted Judge Evelyn Samoa and court officials that his client's, if it's Audrey, then it's her client, is coughing and has been advised by his doctors to seek medical attention. On that note, the lawyer asked for an adjournment to afford enough time for the accused to get the needed care, and the court, based upon the plea of the lawyer, adjourned the case to September 2, 2021. When what? July what?
Today is July the 7th, right?
Okay.
Oh, he's coughing?
Yeah, so doctors...
In these times of COVID?
Exactly. So you can understand why doctors, you know, there will be the advice for you to seek medical attention.
The man is coughing. Come on. He's
so they will be back on September 2nd. He's been charged alongside his wife and his sister for aiding him in his alleged fraudulent act. The 2 women are still at large as their whereabouts remain a mystery to the police. Okay. There's a lot more to the story. If you're interested, you can grab the paper. Let's see what's on the back page. Police resists NDC incitement. There's also another angle to the demonstration. And then the Makkula fire, don't blame us for no water in track. The fire service says.
Well, I'm definitely not coughing, so let's get into the daily guide. Ejura Minister defends military. Did you listen to Adam Bonner yesterday?
No, I did not.
Okay, so part of what he spoke about, you know, his assessment. He hadn't been asked though, but he gave his assessment and he gave the committees 2/10 so far. I was like, Adam Bonner, why?
They've just started. They've just started work. Let's allow them.
But he started digging in. One matter of interest though, how is it possible that there was a commanding officer who deployed when the regional minister gave the order? A commanding officer gave, well, that order to his men to move to the ground, and we can't tell which men were put out on that day.
One of the things that the Rastas had shared was the fact that this committee had extended an invitation to the police and the military as well. So we're hoping that in the coming days, they're sitting today, I think, yeah. So we would begin to hear the other side of what had happened, the accounts from the other side. I mean, just like the Ashanti Regional Minister also gave tendered in some piece of evidence which had already gone viral. So so we'll.
And now when he was asked about the source and bringing the person, you know, of course, trying to
protect his source,
the person's identity. It's always important to do that. But I maintain that even if there's an MTTD officer who takes something from you or does something that you shouldn't, you know, Professor Inning was speaking recently about, was it the Apam Road, a very bulky officer who supposedly the person can't be missed. You know whom you've assigned to which stretch. There's no way you can say, I don't know who was on duty here. It's like saying, oh, we don't know Benjamin Akakpo will be on duty on the AM show. You know who has been assigned. So, but Ejura Probe, Minister Defense Military. I killed boat's driver for money ritual suspect. Money ritual, that is the suspect saying that. NDC stage demo in Accra. Child rights Lord's Nanes twin gesture. It has to do with the Siamese twins. And then Namwan sick trial adjourned. All these stories we've heard of already, but let me do the international entertainment page and wrap up from there. Castro Janet Bandu legally dead. Per our laws, you know what it is, 7 years. And according to Section 33 of Ghana's Evidence Act, if a person has not been heard of for 7 years despite diligent efforts to find that person, he or she will be presumed dead. So that's the status. Chase forever breaks hiatus with Okekamu Ayo. Davido speaks about manager's death. This is a sad one. He's been talking recently on the back of the demise of Habib Uthman, a.k.a. Obama DMW. And Superman director Richard Donner dies at age 91. On the back page, DOL, that is the Division 1 League board, condemns Suhini coronation officials' attack, and managing Ronaldo is not simple. That is Lazio manager Maurizio Sarri talking about the person I consider to be the world's best player ever, Cristiano Ronaldo. That's it for the Daily Guide newspaper.
Let's do Daily Dispatch. Parliament approved allowances for presidential spouses, according to government. Now, H. Kwesi Prempeh, the executive director at the CDD, has had some very interesting stuff to say about this. We will read it too, so we can all, educate ourselves and then begin to talk about the other side or the consequences of this action, possibly. And I'm trying to get it, but whilst I do that, let me go through the other headlines. One of the two shot dead at Ejira calmed the anger of the youth, according to Erastus Asari Donko as he appeared yesterday. But this is something that we've been sharing even before his appearance, that, the whole team had disclosed that initially when they got to the ground and they started shooting, the young people were pretty upset. They were very angry, but this gentleman, sadly, he was shot and killed. He was the one who formed a shield around them initially. Peace. Exactly. And then subsequently led them, only for them to discover, after the whole shooting and everybody was trying to get to a safety point, that he was one of the two. Yeah. It is better to burn excavators on site in Galamsey fight. I know this is a point of departure for Benjamin and myself. I'm not proud of what I have witnessed or, what we have seen even in videos with the military shooting. But when it comes to the excavators, I beg to differ. I am on their side. So is the European Union in Ghana.
Well, you're against not just me, the likes of Samson Ladi and a host of others who also say that. But now we have practically another judgment debt around our necks on the back of how we've dealt with the excavators. Yes,
that was previously Operation Vanguard, right?
Vanguard. So it's also good for us to be very cautious how we are dealing with it this time, so we don't incur further judgment debts.
Well, Dr. Mustafa Hamid has also taken over as MPA CEO. Seen some pictures of him at work, and then I think there was Hassan Tampoli, who he invited, I guess, to give him a brief. Which is a cool thing, except that, when it's a different administration, like a different political party, we will not see that. If we would witness that, that would be good as well. What I mean is like a chief executive under a different political party.
And then a new one. And that is something actually I feel they should do more often. That's why I still laud Henry Quarty. He organized this thing with former Greater Accra regional ministers, past, ones from both administrations. And I feel it was very good because some of what they shared with him obviously would impact his work. Is that it?
Yes, sir. Oh, I wanted to finish it. I wanted to read H. Kwesi Prempeh's.
No, go ahead. Since it ties into that, you might as well go ahead with it.
Oh, did I lose it?
And when you're done, I'll take a look at the Daily Statesman newspaper, which talks about Abu Gapele's family expressing appreciation to Akufo-Addo, of course, that prerogative of mercy exercised by His Excellency, the President. There's appropriate authorities will deal with your concerns, government assures NDC. But this one, and I'm going to dig into it briefly, Kaka's brother attacked him. Police, mind you, police maintains as witnesses appear before a Jura committee. So a little bit about that story before you come in with what H. Kwesi Prempeh says. The Ghana Police Service maintains that its preliminary investigations as well as eyewitness accounts indicate that Mohammed Idrisu alias Kaka was ambushed and attacked by his own brother, Baba Idi. This claim has, however, been challenged by friends and relations of the deceased. They rather claim the late Kaka was attacked by men believed to be connected to the municipal chief executive for Ejura, Setre Dumase. Baba Idi has since been arrested, arraigned, and remanded into police custody by a circuit court at Ejura as investigations continue. So we will keep an eye on that story to find out what the details really are.
Okay, so with regards to the fact that we've been told that Parliament has approved allowances for presidential spouses, this is what H. Kwesi Prempeh has said. The mandate of an Article 71 Emolument Committee is limited to recommending the salaries and other benefits and privileges of those office holders specified in Article 71, Sections 1 and 2. The list of office holders is exhaustive. The Article 71 Emolument Committee has no authority to recommend payments of any allowance or emolument to first or second spouses, as these are not Article 71 offices or of office holders or officers of office holders. Okay. And of course, the Constitution does not require or compel a president or vice president to have a spouse, bachelors. And we will continue with this, just a little bit of it, when we settle down for AM Talk. We'll read the entire post where he says if we continue this way, then we might as well sort out the speaker's spouse as well, and then it will continue on and on and on and on. It's either a bill is presented to Parliament.
Not the executive, it is not the president, it's Parliament that actually, approved this.
So was a bill, I guess, so was a bill sent to Parliament to begin the process to change?
Exactly.
Is what we have to figure out.
Then they would have no bit about whether the speaker, because then no push was made for that.
And then he also, I think most importantly, says that then they will become public office holders.
Yeah.
So we're going to scrutinize them just like we do to their husbands.
We just might have to even look at the legal arrangement and all of that to sort of legalize it, because what is being done, well, we'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like time is up, right?
We've actually run out of time. Let me just sneak in. Kiddies Touch It debuts on the official Afrobeats chart, and the song made its debut on the chart at number 12. It beat Chike and Simi's Running to You to claim the spot.
All right, just before Muftal comes in, just something interesting happening in South Africa. Let's get a brief update on that. So former President Jacob Zuma, their highest court, our highest court is the Supreme Court. Theirs is the Constitutional Court. It actually sentenced him to 15 months imprisonment for contempt. It found him contempt of court last week. And today, Wednesday, is the last day that he has to either present himself to serve that sentence or he will be arrested. But what's also interesting is the fact that he's appealed to a lower court. So just imagine that the Supreme Court has given you a certain sentence and you are the High Court or maybe the Second Court, and you are trying to either overturn or wait for them to deal with it before the Supreme Court carry out their what they have ordered. It's a very interesting something that is unfolding in South Africa. So we'll see what happens. Will the police go ahead and arrest him? The last time they did, his supporters formed like a shield around his house. Yeah, and that's it. So this was them preventing the police from arresting Mr.
I guess these things happen everywhere, right? Not just here. But right before we get to sports, let's quickly do this. Some birthday messages, I should say. Happy birthday to Peter Anti, Executive Director for iFest. A very happy birthday to you, sir. Happy birthday as well. 75th birthday to you, Madam Beatrice Edu of Chifu-Praso. It's from your children, Professor Kofi Abochi, George Asari Efriye Esquire, Evelyn Bruce, and Charlotte Che Bafo. It's also a happy birthday to Honorable Samuel Salas Mensah. July 7 is your special day. May favor and grace continue to locate you and your family. That's from Mr. Kofi Akbabli. Happy birthday to Fanny Eugenia Akuna, final year development planning student at the KNUST. Is from your dad, Emmanuel Akuna, and the entire Akuna family. Mama, would you like to take the others?
Oh, happy birthday to Zion Felix. Is from a call Sam and the rest of the squad. Happy birthday to you, Zion Felix. You as one. Okay, so Muftal will come with the exciting reaction to the Euro 2020. Italy is in the final. Will it be Italy, Denmark, or Italy, England?
It will be Italy, England.
Italy, Denmark.
Italy, England. And we'll see how it pans out.
But it was a painful exit for Spain.
Italy has been almost perfect. I think they just might edge out.
Italy, you want to bet?
Other competition.
Do you want to put money on it?
I think it's going to be Italy, England.
Do you want to put money on it, Masa?
I'm not a betting man. But on that day, today for here we go.
Muftal. Oh no, if you're not putting anything on it, there's no point. Muftal is up next with all those details. Right now, though, we want to talk about some of the big stories in our country. From yesterday, it's been March for Justice, the youth wing of the NDC going on that demonstration, presenting 2 different petitions, one to the presidency and then to Parliament as well. My guest in the studio, Al-Hassan Suhini, is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. He sits on the Lands and Forestry Committee as well as the Appointment Committee of Parliament. Joining him is Akwesi Konedu, Member of Parliament for Menchia North. He is on the Poverty Reduction Strategy Committee as well as the Health Committee of Parliament. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Mama V.
I have to start with you, Mr. Suhini. Yesterday you went on the March for Justice.
Yes, beautiful march it was. Good morning to my brother. Good morning to you. And good morning to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. So let me start by congratulating the organizers of yesterday's march and also thanking all those who made time to participate in that march. My special gratitude also goes to especially those who out of the windows of their offices and in their cars, on their motorbikes, cheered the protesters on. It was quite inspiring to see that. I find it an acknowledgement of the fact that this is something that needs to be done, but not all of us may have the time to do it. So if some of us have elected to do it on behalf of all of us, the little that those who didn't have the time to join could do was what they did as we marched past them, and I think that it is quite gratifying. It was beautiful. I think it's also important that we recognize the professionalism of the security agencies who were deployed yesterday to provide protection. It wouldn't.
There were no military men.
There was an attempt to introduce military men at the start of the program, but the organizers protested strongly because at the meetings they had with the police, that was not discussed, and we all do know that the military is not for internal security. And so, again...
But how do you arrive at the conclusion that there were attempts to introduce...
No, we saw some of them in their vehicles approaching the starting point. And some of the organizers, confronted the lead commander, the police commander. And after, that's why I say it is important to commend their professionalism. I mean, after the back and forth, they saw the wisdom in withdrawing the soldiers. And I think it was correct that they did, because many people, even if you heard the chants and the songs, even though much of it was directed at the commander-in-chief and the chairman of the police council, that is the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, and Dr. Bawumia, some of it was also reserved for the military, who from Ejura to Asawase to the elections in Techiman South, were responsible for the needless murders that happened. And so perhaps seeing them around, would have provoked some people, and maybe they would have said certain things that will not also go down well with them, and who knows what would have happened. So it was reasonable that the lead commanders of the police, saw the wisdom in the protest and decided to withdraw them. So all in all, it was wonderful, and I commend the National Youth Organizer of the NDC and the youth wing generally of the National Democratic Congress for pulling this off beautifully. All the national officers, not all, but majority of them were there to lend their support. And the teeming youth and women, you know, who joined the march yesterday also deserve some commendation. And we need not to forget, I mean, as we celebrate the success of the march, we should not forget what we were protesting.
Yeah, I was just going to come to, was the objective achieved?
Well, these are not events. These kind of things build up to what is the ideal that we all expect in our country. I mean, you are not going to march in the morning for justice and have justice delivered by evening. But at least you would have pricked some conscience. You would have, through the petition you presented, made some demands that officials you hope will act on. So we gave one petition to the president, and we gave one to the Speaker of Parliament. And so these are the arms of government we expect to do something about the insecurity that we are all faced with.
Okay.
I mean, it's not just somebody's brother or somebody's husband. You never know when it's going to come very close to you and get personal.
Okay.
So it is better we all demand that the NPP, for example, in power, live up to the promise of ensuring that every Ghanaian, you know, feels secure on the streets and in their homes. That was in their manifesto. That was the promise they made to all of us.
Okay.
And if we do not feel safe, we have to let them know that.
Let me ask your colleague what he makes of the action that, you know, your friends from the other side took yesterday.
Let me say a very good morning to you, to the teaming viewers online and both on the silver screen now. And also let me say a very good morning to my constituents in Mensah North. Yes, I followed the march yesterday and even had interaction with some of them after the march. For me, in as much as we are all demanding what is right for ourselves, I don't have a problem with that. Because just as he ended, it could be you, it could be me. Anything can happen. But where we pass conclusive remarks as to what we are actually marching for, as the cause of what we are marching for, but they end up deviating from that. Because yesterday I learned it was a march for justice, for people that are being killed, maimed by supposedly military men and other people. But we end up on the streets trying as much as possible to bring into the indications all others, because I heard people speaking about the increment in petrol prices just by the day. I heard people talking about new strategies that they have and they would want to do. It sends a certain signal. One of the unfortunate utterances or one of the unfortunate comments that I feel that needs to be addressed are those that came from my own friend, the Honorable Sam George, and also from Hannah Bisu. I mean, blatantly threatening and also passing those comments that if we find anybody in military uniform, we treat that person as a criminal. I find that very unfortunate. Because if you incite people like that, and I like the question that you asked my brother, and how can you be conclusive in terms of saying there were attempts at bringing military men to the parade?
But he was on the ground.
Perfecto. Then the comments that were passed by Sam George meant that there had been people that had held meetings the night before with an attempt of trying to bring people, military men, to march with them or protect them or whatever he thought they were coming to do. But however, you see, when we premise our argument, we premise our statement on some of these to incite people against people, that is unfair. And secondly, the individuals that you may find in the vehicles as military men may probably even be passing by to work. And during the point of mobilization, you obviously encounter traffic. So does it mean that at any point in time that you find a military man either passing through, passing by, the person is deployed to come, of which you do not really want the person to come? And however, we live in a volatile region now, as in terms of the subcontinent, where we have insurgencies from, and people can at any point in time infiltrate some of these demonstrations and marches, because obviously the leaders come to know every single person who is coming on the march. So even if there is that sort of an intel and people would want to protect even you, the protesters, I believe is a right cause for anybody to do. But however, in as much as we are talking about human life, in as much as we are trying to find justice, both of us, from days of old, in all manifestos, however, talk about the protection of human life, properties, and making sure that the economy grows and prospers. But however, I have always said that consistency in some of these agitations are always the best. Because not trying to belittle the lives that have been lost. But however, these things have happened. There are several countless numbers of some of these things that have happened over the years. I believe we could have, even in government, at that time that the NDs were, the same number of people that were on the street yesterday could have protested for that lives. Because every single life matters. But be that as it may, it's better late than never. We acknowledge the march. Petitions have been sent. I think he says it's to prick the conscience of people. And Mama V, it is the conscience of every single person. What more can a person in authority do if we as citizens do not also support the policies that are brought about in some of these incidents? You see, there has always been a cause, and the cause is as equally important as the effect. Not to justify any brutalities by any single individual on another person, but we must also be looking and speaking to what caused some of these actions and inactions.
So I take it that you're also pretty unhappy about the involvement of the military in situations leading to, and we can settle on Ejura because that was quite recent, leading to the death of 2 persons. You could have joined them in this protest.
You see, the death of those individuals is something that we must all regret and bemoan. The involvement of the military was on the basis of intelligence that the regional minister says he picked, and that he needed to make sure that the military go there to control it. Secondly, Mama V, we must as people not be passing conclusive remarks that the deployment of the military or what we saw culminated or they directly shot those 2 individuals. It could have been any person. Let us wait for the committee that has been set up to thoroughly examine what happened at Ejura. For us, because you see, even in the year up to some of these agitations that came up, were because we believed or were made to believe that the individual, Kaka, got killed because of certain social media agitations or social media awareness that he was embarking on.
You know, we'll come to that matter as in Ejura proper, because I don't know, did anybody conclude that way?
Yeah, it was conclusive, Mama V.
Because I know that people were talking about the things that he had been doing. But I'm not sure anybody said for a fact that he was killed because of the things that he had done.
We can all go back to the publications and the social media and all media at that time that he got killed. That I think was on the 27th, on the 28th, because he died on the 20th. And look at news portals, look at things that were said on social media, look at the reasons why people believed at that time that he was killed. You see, those are some of those issues. We all have to be a bit responsive to some of those issues.
Suhini, I want to ask, because the leadership of yesterday's protest did indicate that that wasn't the only protest, that there will be future protests. I want to talk about the COVID-19 protocols. And, you know, I heard very clearly the General Secretary of the party indicating that there were people with nose masks and sanitizers, and if you didn't have, reach out and space out. But we know how it went down. There were a lot of people out there who were not respecting the protocols. It's difficult because the numbers were great. Shouldn't, based on what we have seen happen, you try to control it, but you couldn't control it 100%. Should we be allowing future protests?
Well, Mama V, I would like to respond to a few things that he said before I answer your question. But clearly, I think that we should be afraid of this government more than we are afraid of COVID. This government has destroyed more families and more lives than COVID has done. Terribly so. And we all have friends, we all have relatives who are suffering one way or the other as a result of government policies and government decisions, and we know them. So we should be afraid of them more than COVID. And if it's going to take the risk of embracing COVID to get them to set up and do things right, I think that we will continue to take the protocols into consideration as we do these things, but we'll take that chance.
Do you honestly think that what you do out there on the streets as NDC members would change anything?
It is important. I mean, that we do what we do out there in the hope that it changes things. Because when we lose that hope, then we would have been losing hope of anything coming out of our democracy, and that would be dangerous. Because in a democracy, it is expected that, you know, government listens. And if it is a good government, I think they will listen and change some things. For example, you recall that in this country, we have had situations where when good governments were in power, demonstrations, you know, led to changes. For example, VAT, it was as a result of demonstrations that VAT got better. For example, biometric register, it was as a result of demonstrations and protests by opposition members that we had a biometric register. So when you have good governments that are listening, that understand that democracy is not about a one-man show or a one-system show, protests lead to, you know, changes that benefit all of us. So I hope that you are not saying that we will not experience anything because you know that this government is not listening and has shut its ears. Over the period, they have proven to be so, but I hope they will prove us wrong, you know, along the line.
So
but
irrespective of COVID, we should still allow demonstrations such as what we saw yesterday.
And we should allow Fix the Country movement guys to also hit the streets. I'm saying that, yes, COVID is a risk, but I'm saying that we have seen effects of government policies that can be said to be worse than what COVID has done to us as a people. And so between the two risks of sitting at home and allowing this government to continue to do the wrong thing to us and taking all the protocols we are supposed to take, even though it is still going to be risky to embark on a demonstration, I will choose, you know, the risk of confronting this government, even as I fear that I may get COVID. It is important that we do that because, you see, this government is not better than COVID. And if it is allowed to continue in the way that they are currently on, we may all just end up, you know, dying or losing, you know, loved ones. And that is why I think that the Fix the Country people must demonstrate. And that takes me to my initial suggestion to respond to some of the issues that he raises. You see, when you found people talking about, you know, economic hardships and high fuel prices, you need to understand that a group of people before this demonstration had, you know, sought to protest their discomfort as far as conditions of life, you know, is concerned. And they had been frustrated. So if they saw a platform, they may not necessarily have even been NDC members, but if they saw a platform that gave them the opportunity to still vent those frustrations that they had, they were very much welcome. And even though the NDC organized a protest for justice, it was not exclusive to just justice.
So this was a mixed bag.
It was inclusive of all those who had other misgivings as far as our governance system is concerned.
Okay.
But the petition that was presented spoke to the reason why we march. And secondly, on the issue of the military, when you heard Sam George and Hannah Bisu in those clips, you have to understand what happened, because Sam George and others were those who were part of the negotiation for the deployment of security. And they were those who protested the inclusion of the soldiers. So they were not speaking out of, you know, hearsay or context. They were speaking after their protest to the, you know, leadership of the police, that their suggestion to include the military will not be tolerated.
Oh, but that was at the meeting.
No.
Were there different forms of negotiation even on the ground beyond what you
if you understand how demonstrations happen, apart from the meeting that will take place perhaps in a conference room, the discussions never end until the demonstrations are over. The organizers still speak to each other to control the crowd, even during the demonstration. When it comes to, for example, choosing routes, I'll give you a typical example. When we marched to Opebia yesterday, the Silver Star Towers, there were those who wanted to use the 37 route. But the agreement with the police was that we will go through the Stanbic Heights and then come out of the Aviation Social Center and through the Lands Commission. when the police tried to stop them and it was developing, it was degenerating, they had to call on the leadership of the organizers. So you keep talking even after the meeting.
Okay.
So it was as a result of the intention, the revelation of an intention to include the military. And we saw some of them, that Sam George and co protested strongly to them and also told the media that we have protested this to the, what do you call it, the security agencies. And so
but what
we
do you
want
make,
you
what do
to
you make
know,
of the,
when you find military
of
among us and you see us protesting, you see us treating them as criminals, because we have already told them that we didn't agree to it. So
but just that statement that said that if we spot military people, we treat them as criminals.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement to make? That's a member of
Because
Parliament.
you see, as we speak now, even though we have information, verifiable information, that many of the MPP thugs who were in those vigilante groups have been absorbed into the security agencies, we know, especially coming from Ayawaso Wagon, that many of them wear military uniforms. We know. And when I say information that is credible, it's not information that is picked from the street. It's information that is coming, one, from the Ayawaso Wagon commission hearing, two, from the recently removed Ashanti Regional Commander of the Security Boss. He said that these were boys in the vigilante groups who are now part of the national security.
Yeah, but with regards to his situation, it wasn't military.
You never know when they give them military uniforms to wear, like it happened in the Ayawaso, because they had security gadgets on them. And you never know when they will add a uniform to them. So when we say that we don't want them there, it is for these suspicions that we have of some of them. And so if it was defied, that's why I'm saying we must comment the security arrangement that was put in place. Let us not go into the ifs, because they saw the wisdom in the protest.
Let me ask Mr. Cornell, because you raised that issue. What do you make of the explanation that he's just given?
He's even made it worse. If you listen to the audio very well, and if you listen to Sam George very well, he never made credence to a meeting that they had with the police or the security in terms of the people that they were bringing. But he said, we have information that yesterday night, members in government or something have met, and that they would want to bring military people on the grounds, and that if they bring them or if we see them, we are going to treat them as criminals. I mean, why must you say that? You say we should not go to the ifs and buts, but that is the same thing that we are doing. We don't know when they are going to give them military uniforms to wear. We don't know when we are going to do that. As a protester or as a demonstrator, one of the most important things that the security agencies can do for you is to make sure that they protect you whilst you're on the street marching. Because, as you just said, that people may have joined because they felt like, oh, you are articulating their views for them, and that they can join you in also articulating their views and vent out what they term as their frustration. The same way that people who may not agree with you, like 25 years ago, when people mounted on horseback, the ACDRs, attacked people who were on demonstrations, could also happen. So therefore, it is the duty of the security, picking intel, credible intel that are verifiable, not the intels that my brother will tell me they can verify, but you and I know that between your intel and that of the police or the security agencies, that would hold more credence. If they pick that and they believe that it's appropriate for them to add whatever groupings of security personnel that they would want to have, as a protester, you cannot say, we don't want that. I mean, if we do that, at the end of that is why the police would therefore say, we cannot guarantee your safety at this time to demonstrate, and therefore hold on the demonstrations. When that happens also, we tell ourselves that, oh, the security services are garganers and government is behind them, garganer. But at the end of it, we cannot jeopardize the security of the ordinary person also, in as much as you would want to protest and vent out. I don't have a problem with anybody protesting or wanting to hit the streets with whatever agitations, whatever frustrations, whatever reasons that they would want to go on the street. But the most important thing for us is that at the end of the day, just as we are here now, commending the security personnel and the police for making sure that yesterday's demonstration, we never heard that 5 people are dead. We never heard somebody has been brutalized. People have been arrested and jailed and that kind of.
at least it's the same thing that when we are negotiating with them or when we are sitting with them to make sure that we find routes and ways to go. You see, when the police determine, and even I'm just hearing, when they determine that you pass through this area so that at least in terms of traffic situation and all other security arrangements, people still became defiant of that. In this vein, would you tell me that if the police would want to use what they would term as their reasonable force to make sure that people get in line, we would then be here talking about some of these things? But the most important thing for me is that as people and as leaders, our utterances must be such that it doesn't incite our people against the institutions. That will not be fair.
Answer the question of the adherence to the COVID protocols and future protests.
Mama, for me, as I sit here, I've always said I'm on the health committee, and I've always said we must be able to ease ourselves into what I term as the old normal. I like it when they went on demonstrations. Just oppose that with some funerals that they criticized and comment against. I always say, when we get into our markets, look at the number of people in these markets. You see, can we then say, because that we have all of these numbers in the market, and I understand that the new variant of the virus is as harsh as it can be, and that we obviously cannot lose our guard. The most important thing for us now is to be able to adhere to the protocols and make sure that at least we have our nose masks on, we do the regular sanitization of our hands, washing our hands and the rest, so that we can ease ourselves into
Is it not because our leaders blatantly broke the protocols? That's why this protest was allowed to happen?
No. Mama V, you see, if people do not try and experiment, and I'm using and choosing my words very carefully, and experiment, how then do we find...
So is that what we're doing?
We must at some point in time, even go to the UK now. What did Boris Johnson just say about 2 days ago? That it is now or never. Because there should be a time that we can ease ourselves.
But for us, leadership hasn't said anything concrete.
But you see, you do not want to hear that leadership would definitely say there is this concrete thing that we are doing.
You're
but
just pointing at the UK.
Yes, no problem.
And that's a plan.
Yes, that is a plan, no problem. But leadership can also have a plan that let us observe from afar, let us see, let us leave it, let us hold it a bit loose and see how it is going to fall. And that if it's going to fall in a certain magnitude, then we can pull ourselves up back again. But leadership hasn't said that, you see, when we ask that people adhere to these protocols, Mama V, and put on the nose masks and the rest, how well can any leader move from his office and come back here to tell you, Mama, you don't have your nose masks on, and that put it on. And if you don't put it on, would that supposed to go back to hit the leader? That is a problem that we are facing. We as people must also take that bold decision and adhere to some of these protocols.
Okay, we have to move on, but I've got to ask you, so what is Parliament doing about the petition that you presented? I know there was an issue of, is it going to be referred to the legal committee or whichever committee? What has been agreed?
I think it was a petition to the Speaker of Parliament, so he is reserved with the decision as to what to do with the petition. But given the demands that were made, I can see if he is minded to, if Speaker is minded to, a possibility of the petition being referred to a number of committees and not just one committee. For example, if you want the implementation of the Ayawaso Wagon, commission report, it will have to go, a short report, thank you. It will have to go to a number of committees like the judiciary.
But sorry, I mean, government issued a white paper, what it adopted. So what for instance, you want Parliament to do about the report itself, the original reports?
Well, first of all, we had issues with the white paper that was issued. And secondly, even those in the white paper that government admitted and agreed it will implement, it hasn't. So the call is for us to revisit that report and discuss not just what was left out, but even what we were told will be done in the white paper, which hasn't been done. So we think that it is worth calling on government to look at, if for nothing at all, fulfilling the promise they made in the white paper about some of the actions that they were going to take. We also have called for a bipartisan parliamentary probe into the murders in Techiman, Savlugu and others. So that is a matter that can also be referred to another committee, say the security committee, or you can, and the security committee will advise the House as to whether the bipartisan probe is worth it or not. I do know that there's already a motion that myself, together with Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa and the minority leader Haruna Idrisu, have filed, you know, calling for a probe into some of these murders.
Okay.
So the Speaker is reserved with the decision on what to do with the petition and how to treat it.
Okay, I guess we'll see in the coming days how this all unfolds. But I want us to quickly talk about the committee set up by the Interior Minister to look into matters of Ejura. How much of it did you follow yesterday, Mr. Kunedu? The Ashanti Regional Minister appeared where he justified the use of the military. He also would not disclose his intel. He tendered in a piece of video to the committee, but he would not disclose where he got the video from. And they practically had to beg him to make the person available if he could.
Yeah, I watched the regional minister, and I also watched the Erastus Asari Donko's testimonial evidence at the committee. Let me talk about the intel. Now, maybe, you know, as much as I would want to have said that probably that person would be a very good source of evidence or information for the committee, you obviously cannot also put the person in public domain. Because one, the regional minister made it clear that if you do that, you would obviously not be able to have quite a number of people bringing out information to him on security matters.
But they did tell him that they could hear that person in camera.
Yes, that is what he even suggested that, and the committee agreed on that, that if they would want to hear the person in camera. So he actually did not dismiss that he would not want to bring the person to the committee. But because he doesn't want to bring people that gives him information, intelligent information, security information, because you see there are quite a number of people who go out giving information. And you and I believe that whistleblowers have always been very good source of information. And in Twi, we say, which means literally translating, nobody gives out the person who gives him or her information, because otherwise we will never have information.
But this is a committee that's looking for facts.
Yes, so they can sit in camera and take those facts and include that in their
You know, it's interesting you say that, because monitoring him and hearing him yesterday, yes, it wasn't so definite that he could make the person available.
No.
Because towards the end, he was talking about how he did not want to damage the person or anything of it, even after the pleas that they could hear it in camera.
Oh, no. He said he would try and bring the person so that the person will be heard in camera, so that it doesn't jeopardize all other individuals that gives him information on
Interesting. I didn't get that same impression.
Yeah, oh, I did. I did. And I believe that is going to happen, because you and I, and for me especially, would want to have a clarity as to what happened and why it happened, so that we can curtail future occurrences of such events. And so that, at least in training of our security personnel and even inculcating into ourselves as citizens, certain things that we should not be doing going forward. Because at the end of the day, all these people, men in uniform, are just ordinary as we are. They would have relatives and people across the country and everywhere that ordinarily they will not be there to protect those individuals but they may be victims when some of these events happen.
Okay, could we talk about Erastus so that I can move on?
That is where I will get back to the point that I was trying to make, that when information or when news break, it is important for every single person to have the temperament to verify all information before we put it out there and make certain remarks, though it may be our independent remarks that we want to make. But people who consume information from us, as people that they believe would have that information, would always take it as the truth.
Why do you say that?
Yes, because when he was asked and he was pushed, he said that when they had the information, they could not, as an independent...
Which information are you talking about?
That is when they had the information about the person being killed as a result of the person being a Fix the Country person, Fix the Country campaigner. He said
so
this is independently verified. And that he even ended up saying that some of the information or the news that got out was as a result of the discretion of the editors.
Okay, so this is the parts of the probe that was looking at the
Yes.
slag. So just as we're here on television, we see a Ejura killing probe, 3-member committee continues public sitting in Kumasi.
Sure.
But what has that got to do with the person who is covering the story on the ground?
What has that got to do with the person who's covering the story?
Because you were talking to the reporter who was on the field.
Yes.
Whose visuals could probably help you uncover perpetrators of this crime.
Sure.
What has he got to do with what we put on the screen? And I know that a lot of people don't understand our work. But if you're on the field, you know, our reporters that followed the demonstration yesterday,
yes,
Gifty and Daniel, they would not know what we put on the screen.
You see,
do you understand what I mean? Like, I want us to be clear.
This is the probe, but these are not the real events that happened on the 27th and the 28th. I'm talking about what happened on the 27th and on the 28th.
And I'm also explaining the protocols to you. Because Erastus on that day was a reporter.
Sure.
He was only telling the story on the ground.
He has heard.
No. Are we okay. Suhini, maybe let me give you the opportunity because you've done this work before. So maybe you have a better understanding. You can explain this better.
I get where you are coming from. You see, there is this appetite of my friends in government to distance Kaka from the social media activism he was engaged in before his death. But they are not even doing it well. Because you see, the evidence of his social media activism is still online. So to describe him as a social media activist, and even to infer that it could have been the reason, one of the reasons.
But we haven't, we didn't,
I'm just saying,
we didn't even
yes,
make that
you didn't make that inference.
Erastus had gone to the house because there was the description that he was a Fix the Country campaigner.
Yes.
And Erastus was telling us how the family, you know,
I am not
showed him
attributing the
evidence,
inference to
but then
you.
there were other people who said no, he wasn't.
Fantastic.
But
So,
then we also had the Fix the Country campaigns themselves
saying he
issue a
was
statement
member of,
and talk
he was
about that.
among, so that's what I'm saying. He was a social media activist. No question about that. What we cannot, you know, at this point, confidently say is whether his social media activism is what led to his death or his murder. But what we should not also be denied from saying, because investigations are not conclusive yet, is that it is possible. Are you getting the point I'm making? We cannot say conclusively that it is the reason, but we should not be denied. And so if you, as a reporter, you go to the scene and some people tell you that it is possible, you have the duty to report that. If others say that is not the reason, another reason is possible, you have a duty to report that. But where maybe my brother is not getting the analogy you are making is when the committee members make references to the newsroom production of what a reporter says. Because you see, in the newsroom, a lot of things happen. The reporter on the ground says so much. There are those who are also tasked to summarize what he says and to draw headlines out of it and put those headlines either as news headline or just, slacks on the screens. It is some people's duty. They get it wrong sometimes. Even when we are on this show, there are times they attribute slacks to us that we have to draw their attention to correct. It happens. So they may have assigned a slack that does not, correctly represent what the reporter on the ground said. So if you have the opportunity to interact with the reporter, you don't blame the reporter for whatever may have happened.
My confusion yesterday, are they looking for facts as in what happened on the ground?
Because
or they are looking at what the television station
may have gotten wrong.
put on
that
the screen necessary. As a slag?
In my view, Mama V.
Because this is not even a commission of inquiry. Yes. You are asking people to willingly, freely come before you and give information.
Mama V, in my view, and that is why I think that maybe the committee members missed the point. It is not to prove the media house wrong about what they did. It is to find the facts and let the facts speak for themselves. And you had, the reporter who was on the ground there. So you needed to, as much as possible, focus on what he saw and what he reported exactly. That will speak for itself.
You would know the cost involved in sending the whole team with live instruments to broadcast something as we did.
Right.
The whole time. Yeah. And to give that record to a committee free of charge for them to use, I am thinking that we should be saying a big thank you to Erastus and the team instead of looking for faults with slacks.
That's what I'm saying. I think that the committee members at that point got it a bit wrong. They should focus on getting. But Mama Viv, I think I should have started with that. We in the NDC and other, well-meaning Ghanaians do not even think that this committee should be the one looking at this matter. We think it should be higher. It should be a presidential commission or something like the Ayawaso West Wagon. Not to take away the credibility of some of the members, and I stress the some. Not to take away the credibility and maybe the professionalism of some of the committee members, but just to say that the powers that they have as a ministerial committee cannot be equated to what we would have had if we had, for example, a commission, an independent commission, or even commission for human rights, looking into this matter.
Let me give.
But all in all, as they do their work, I will urge that they focus on the facts and not the asides of who may have gotten what report or slug or headline wrong. They should focus on getting as much information as possible from people who can help them. And see, maybe if you permit me, a quick comment on the video that the Ashanti Regional Minister, had some banter. Yes. You see, it is important for the committee to insist that they get the person who sent him the video to get facts also from that person. Facts. Because you see, that video in question has been on social media since the Ejura incident. Now, not to discredit the video, but videos sometimes are shared, but they have nothing to do with the subject that is being discussed. I'll give you a typical example recently. When we had the shootings in Ejura, after the shootings in Ejura, there was a video of President Mahama that emerged of him visiting victims on hospital beds. People thought that was Ejura. Do you understand? So you have to find out, first of all, who shot the video. The person who gave the video to the minister, was he the one who shot the video? It's important to establish that. And where did he shoot the video? At what time did he shoot the video? Okay. And what happened before the video was shot? You need to understand all of that. Okay. Because this video could have even been shot after the two people were dead.
It's interesting you're asking all these questions,
it's important.
But you already set out the limitations for this committee. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mama, thank you. You see, in as much as the committee is on a fact-finding or evidence-finding, it doesn't mean that they must also be able to sieve every single thing that they are getting in contact with. The reason why I say so is that immediately things happen and how they are reported, the sort of conclusion, the remarks that we make, even makes the job of the investigative bodies very difficult. Currently, we sit here, we are hearing that a brother of Kaka had been arrested by the police. An investigation is ongoing that he may have been the person who killed his own brother. Now, people would discredit that as a way of trying to take off the initial reportage or the initial information that they may have.
You can't control that.
That is the point. So now the duty or the job that the investigative bodies would have to do then becomes very difficult.
No, but that's how things have been, always.
But it should not.
Unless you're under a military regime, then you can force people not to have their own angles to a situation.
But when having your own angles to a situation, it should not also be said that that cannot also be criticized. And that cannot also be scrutinized. The same way we want to scrutinize others, that should also be scrutinized. I am not saying that people should not report, but I am only saying that when things of this nature happen, how we go about it, we should be very...
Okay, so
otherwise, at the end of the day...
Me, I want to appreciate what you're coming from.
Yes.
So what should Erastus have done? Because he was on the field.
No, you see,
help me appreciate...
I am not being specific as to what. That is why I said that when some of these matters do happen, the initial reportage should always be a bit circumspect.
We were?
Yes. And that
so unless you have something, contrary...
Mama V, at the end of the day, if Kake's brother hadn't been arrested, the narrative now, not to rule out what Suhini also said.
He remains a suspect.
The same way that the allegation of him being a member of Fix the country person. That is why.
They issued a statement. Fix the country campaigners issued a statement.
That was after that reportage.
But if there's a group that identify, have a common interest, issue a statement and say this
was after.
What you are doing is dangerous.
Suhini, don't go there.
Oh no, what you are doing is dangerous.
I am only saying.
I think you may not notice, but you are giving a certain sense that Kaka's brother may have been arrested to discredit the reportage.
I am not saying
that suggested that he was a social media activist. That's what you are suggesting.
Then I would also
was that the aim of just arresting the gentleman? Because we have heard the niece of the niece. In fact, Kaka's daughter crying on the vice president and saying the uncle couldn't have been responsible and they must release the uncle.
Okay,
and so when you suggest that because people were linking him to social media activism, then they arrest the brother to shut that up?
That would also have been made so that the real evidence as to why he was killed then could have also been covered. That the social media activism could also have been made up. If that is what you would want to say.
My goodness. I mean, I don't think you are helping the system with that line of argument.
I am only saying that in everything we must be
Could it be that?
And we must not be conclusive on facts that it is not verified.
So are we saying that because there are conspiracies, there are conspiracy theories
and he's just giving us one conspiracy theory. That the brother of Kaka was arrested because of the suggestion that he was part of the media.
But it becomes difficult, even for acceptance of what really happened.
He's just giving us one conspiracy theory.
You have already given that conspiracy theory. That could have been made up.
No,
just to cover
you are suggesting that.
I am not. I only say that
go and listen to yourself
now that the police are trying to find the perpetrators of the crime and even have arrested his own brother, that could have been the person who killed him. Now it would even become.
And you said if they didn't do that, the report that his social media activists would have continued.
I did not say that.
That's what you said.
That is not what I said. We can always
that is what I find interesting.
That is not what I said.
So if they had not arrested the brother, the suggestion that he was social media activist would have continued.
No, that was not what I said.
So was he arrested to stop that reportage?
At the end of the day, was the social media activism put out there so that the real perpetrators
The fact is that he is a social media activist. And so any suggestion that his work may have led to his killing, it's a possibility that has to be proven wrong by investigation.
There have been high-profile social media activism. He was not even the originator of Fix the Country.
Oh my God.
Those people are even walking around. So let us not be on that path. That is what I'm saying. We should not be on that path. Let us give people an opportunity to also digest information, but not to give them a conclusive information at the end of the day.
So by the kind of conversations that we have around the work of the committee, would we not be shifting the goalposts? Because the committee is there to find out facts leading to the killing of 2 persons in Nigeria and the injury of others.
And the amputation of a 16-year-old. That's how sad.
So if we begin to, crowd the space with these kind of conversations.
That is the point.
Yeah, but who has caused it?
We all have caused it. Because we could not give those people who had the primary responsibility initially to have access to evidence, for them to digest that evidence and put them out there for us to then analyze.
Just the final thing, because we have to go. Is it good that the media can do something that all other state agencies, when at the crucial time, are not able to do? Because we've given, and yesterday Erastus, revealed that it's several hours of videotapes, and I thought that would be absolutely helpful to the committee if they really want to identify the people. But it looks like that's
not even focused.
Are we shifting the goalpost?
Nobody is shifting the goalpost. In as much as evidence are given from a person, doesn't mean that the evidence cannot be
to clear some people and clear the government of complicity.
And claim the government of complicity.
Yeah, that's how it looks like. That's why.
What has the government got to do?
The government is in charge of our security and our safety.
Yes, you see, that is where you bring it.
The commander, the RECSEC commander is an appointee of the government.
You don't just consume the evidence.
And he has admitted deploying the soldiers.
We can't make the conclusion.
So it's government.
To be fair with the minister, he says it's a strategy that he's been using.
I understand, but I'm saying if it goes wrong,
and it has usually worked.
But if in this case it has gone wrong,
and it is
government responsibility.
Intel that he said he had. Yes. Had he not, and we had another situation, what would you have said? Oh, he could have deployed the military and he did not. And now we have people, insurgents or whatever, infiltrating what had happened there. And now
we have to leave the analysis here. And then look forward to. I was a bit confused yesterday though. So was it day 1 yesterday? So that is day 2 today. Remember the president gave 10 days.
Yes, I
yes.
think
So
so.
the days will start counting.
It will start counting from the day
they started work.
They sit, yes.
Okay.
And there's a possibility of an extension depending as to what the evidence is that.
If they focus on the essentials.
What's your expectation? Would the Minister of Interior also issue a white paper? As in, would he also present a report out of the report that's given to him by the committee to the president?
Definitely, sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
And that is why, again, we have our skepticism. We are skeptical about the outcome of this committee's report. I mean, even a commission's report is still being unattended to.
Well, we'll see how this one goes. Let's have an open mind.
Another, they say that when a government has to form a committee to resolve your problem, then you have a long way to go.
So, this is not the first time we've had committees in this country.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Stay with us. You're still watching the AM show. And when the committee sits, of course, we will bring you the updates live here on JoyNews.
Welcome back on the AM show, and after all that discourse on AJRA and the NDC's demonstration, we go back to matters tied to what transpired in AJRA as we dig into the work of that 3-member committee, the Justice Kingsley Kumsin Committee. Joining me, my colleague at Love FM, Erastus Asare Donko. He's going to be getting into the facts of the matter as far as the work of the committee is concerned. Erastus, a very good morning to you. And let me start on this note. Congratulations on how you handled yourself yesterday. We're all very proud of you. You did a yeoman's job. Congratulations to you. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Great. What was it like being in the hot seat yesterday, being bombarded with all the questions and all of that? What was the feeling like?
Well, it was out of the realm. At a point to initially, it was a bit nerve-wracking, and as it got on, I felt okay. Mind you, I have come before court to give testimonies in cases I have done, and so I knew I had to be calm. I have to stay calm. I have to focus on the truth and be able to share what I have seen and not go beyond that one. And so that is what kept me going.
Right. And of course, truth always stands. Congratulations once more. But let's talk about the terms of reference of this committee. What are the terms of reference? Do you know? Anything you can share with us as far as the work of this specific committee is concerned?
I asked the chairman of the committee when he was at the draft of the terms and reference, and he simply said, interrogate and investigate the disturbances that occurred at a drag. I guess that's what the terms and reference.
Right. Straight to the point there. So let me find out from you. I mean, not everyone was able to cover the expanse of all that happened yesterday. Tell me, give us a blow-by-blow account of a bit of what transpired yesterday, the salient parts, your takeaways from yesterday's committee hearing.
So I must say they allowed me initially to tell them what we experienced, what we watched, right from when we got to Adra at about 10 a.m. and when we met a hostile crowd there and we were prevented from filming, down to when we were able to calm them down, start our journey with them, just like we cover demonstrations every day, move with them down to where the military came in, what kind of men who came in, the numbers, how they fired. And at a point in time, they started asking questions about, when they watched a bit of the video and they wanted to know more about what they were seeing. What the notable points I can say is that they were expecting to see everything vividly, like what I was saying, in camera, in video. And try to link the video to what I was saying, that I must speak to the videos. But I must say that there are other things perhaps my eyes will catch that the cameras will not also catch, and I have to make that point to them as well. And in fact, if you watch the videos and you watch my testimony, clearly you could see what I was describing to them in the videos. I have not watched the videos, seriously. If you ask me, I have not gone back to watch the videos we took before coming before the committee.
So all of this was based on what you had seen on the ground on that day. You were just pouring forth what you had seen.
Exactly. What I had seen on the ground still plays in my mind till date, like a movie. In fact, when I sit down quietly and I'm not doing anything, it plays back in my mind all the time, especially the gentlemen who were shot in front of us when they fell, and the emotions, the blood on the streets, is something that keeps running in my brain. And I try to wrap my brain around what happened, and I can't make sense of it. And so I was telling them the pictures I was seeing in my head, and I've been seeing in my head since. Nothing but the truth, nothing but what I saw on the streets. And so the questions that they were asking outside the remit of what happened there were the ones that bothered me a bit, especially when they wanted me to, go into what was the crawlers and the slugs on the screen, which I will not see being on a field. That was where I had a problem. I did not have a problem with it initially, but when it kept dragging, then I was asking myself, what is the point? Because that is not even linked to why the people were demonstrating. Because the people who were demonstrating were covering it live, and the slugs were on the live feed. So why would that incite anybody to demonstrate? What part would that play in anybody shooting anybody? That was what was going on in my mind, really.
Right. And you've also spoken about those two gentlemen who were, so to speak, gunned down, that one of them had actually been trying to, speak to those who were clashing with the police and later the military to desist from it. And that person, unfortunately, lost his life. He was one of the two who lost their lives. What more can you tell us about that?
In fact, every single day
Hello, Erastus?
think of that, why he volunteered to help journalists who were doing their job, people he never knew from Adam, and decided to guard us from his own people. And the last time we went there to the family, we learned that he has a child. He left behind a child. And I've been looking for that child. So on a monthly basis, I can send the family something. Because he was with us throughout. And just to think that you are here with somebody a minute ago, and the next moment you are seeing his blood flowing on the streets, and he's lifeless, lying on a stretcher. It beats my imagination. And I think this is somebody who was asking his people to calm down. And he's the one who died for the action that was going on. And so I had to tell the committee about that one as well, and the fact that I saw later that he was the one whose blood was flowing on the streets out there. That point needed to be made.
That's a very touching gesture. You're trying to support this gentleman. And it also talks about why this committee really must get into the details of the matter so that we get to the bottom of it. His life snuffed out, what happens to that child? These are some of why the reasons the committee is, in fact, sitting. But tell me, so the committee has started its work and it's going to continue today. Tell us a bit more about what to expect today. It's still starting at 10 o'clock, right?
Yes, we are still starting at 10 o'clock. Currently, they are making arrangements, preparing the place. And so we are likely to start at 10 today. we were told by secretary to the committee that today they will be inviting members of the security agencies. I don't know who exactly is coming, but I'm picking information that the military hierarchy will be represented today at the committee, and perhaps somebody from the regional police command will also appear. I do not know whether the commander of that team that went to Edra will also be appearing, but that is what we've been told by the secretary to the committee, lawyer Marie Simmons.
Right. I also know that the committee has requested the raw footage. You said yesterday that it could be 3 hours plus of footage that you have. And based on that, they could invite you again to come before it to testify. Are you ready, Erastus?
Ever ready, my brother. I've told you what I witnessed over there is what I talk about. You know, I don't go outside the remit of what I don't know. And if you know me, I've always stood by what I see. If you complain to us in the newsroom, we'll have to go to the ground first. I don't like sitting in the newsroom to talk about things I've not seen. So definitely, we'll talk about what we've seen. I must say that we gave them, even before the hearing, we gave the clerk all the videos we had in a folder. And in addition, we thought that, okay, they could also need the footage that was going live on our YouTube page. And that is why we downloaded those that were flowing on our YouTube page and added it to the folder for them. And we explained clearly to the guy that this is what was going live. This is the original videos we have given you. But they decided to play the online video. The guy, I don't know for what reason, decided to play the online video. And that became the subject of discussion before the committee. But we have given them all the footage that we have.
Before you take leave of us, I know the committee is sitting and they will probe further into the details. But we're hearing more. In today's Daily Statesman, for example, we heard about the fact that the police is pushing that point that Kaka's brother could have been involved in his murder. How is the family reacting to that? I know initially, Erastus, they pushed back against that narrative and said it was not the case at all. What else has the family been saying, if they've said anything recently on the back of that accusation?
Well, if you remember clearly, we went to the house of Kaka and we met the wife and family, and you saw that they brought out Quran. They were all holding copies of the Holy Book Quran. They swore that the brother to the deceased, Idi, did not know anything about the crime, that they want the lady who was talking to come back. But the lady has also been speaking and been still standing on his feet concerning what he has said to the police, that indeed he saw a brother to the deceased holding the body and leaving the scene at that particular time. And in fact, I will be a bit, I will want to stay neutral on this because the police might have seen something. That is why they still insist that the guy knows something about it. And that from the accounts I'm hearing, they have some beef concerning property left to them. And so that is what the police are investigating to unravel whether indeed he was part of those who did that particular job. There are other accounts that also indicate from the family themselves that people saw two guys leaving the scene, and those two guys have been arrested by the police, assisting in investigations. And so they themselves believe that the brother to the deceased, Idi, is not part of, cannot be part of the killers of his own brother. But then the police think otherwise. And I think after investigations, we'll be able to get to the bottom of this.
Well, more power to your elbow, Erastus. Keep up the good work. And thank you so much for sharing your insights with us on the AM show this morning. We'll take a breather, and when we return, we draw the curtains on the AM show.